Hello everyone and welcome back to the Misfits Endurance Series. Of course, my name is Strifium and joining me is Unicorn, and you would normally be catching us on a live stream for this series, but unfortunately, technical difficulties coming into effect, preventing us from doing so. But we are still here yet again with another race. It's round 10, I believe now, for the Endurance Series. And we are here around Sochi, the Autodrome, of course, in Russia. And what a race we're going to see, of course, Formula One taking to the Russian circuit this weekend as well.
Yeah, I think Sochi, a very interesting circuit to say the least. Sector 3, very notoriously difficult to overtake around, but there's, a lot of straightaways here, and there's that very unique sort of U-bend of turn 3, so I'm sure there will be plenty of opportunity for these drivers to overtake each other, and it was obviously 100% race, so they've got more time to overtake each other as well.
That's right. Now it's going to be a clear weather event. We do have the weather report. We have 20 drivers on the grid for you today. Now, who do we have? We have, of course, Vettel, Luktra, Swifty, BTFU, Adam, Yoda, Jake, Steph, Domi, Jones, as well as Fraser, Cotters, Wisp, Freeware, Henners. Mikau is taking to the circuit today. Of course, you're here with me, Unicorn, which means Mikau is driving instead of in the booth, with Finn over there with the Red Bull, as well as Max Inkster, Alex Biddo, and Brainstew.
Yeah, very competitive grid. I'm sure we'll see a lot of close action. We've been graced with a lot of action around these 100% endurance series before, and I'm sure tonight will be no different. It's a racing point. That's Atom, I think, first out of the garage. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see. And obviously, like you said, Mikau on the track. Always nice to see him here. Very, very quick driver. But we'll see. Like you said, usually in the booth, but now we get to see him in action.
Yeah, for sure. And we have Yoda and Adam. Excuse me, it's Adam in that racing point who's teaming up with Yoda on this occasion. But he's going to be the first driver out of this pit lane to take us around Sochi. He'll be the first one to set a flying lap here for this race.
Yeah, and there's a Haas just behind him as well, so that's Max Inkster. So I'm interested to see whether it looks like Max Inkster's actually gone ahead. So interested to see whether there's any sort of slipstream that the now Atom, who's behind Max Inkster, can get down the start finish straight, or whether he's going to back off here through sector 3 to just give himself as much space as possible, and as much clear air.
Max Inkster always that driver that wants to be the first driver to set a lap. We've seen it with him in Tier 2 all season long.
It's a 100% race though. I'm sure there's plenty of opportunities for these drivers to get onto the camera here, but it is, like you said, Max Inkster first across the line. Down through sweeping right-handed is turn 1, and realistically the turn 2 here is where we're going to see everyone come together when the race is underway now to this long left-hander of turn 3. Like I said, very unique corner. This U shape, and into the right-hander of turn 4. A lot of right-handers on this track. Into sector 2, turn 5. Again, another 90-degree bend, and you can see there that runoff would be a good place to invalidate, but we are running regular corner cutting rather than the usual strict to save too many penalties coming into play here.
Ooh, big slide out from Max Inkster.
Yeah.
Ooh, that was a big kick out from that car there. He's lost that front left end plate. He's still going though.
It's interesting to see what Atom can do and the time differential between the pair of these guys. So he's now sort of on the most realistic looking flying lap. He has set the fastest sector 2, unsurprisingly. Into this final sector then, where it's very difficult to get past. You can see Max Inkster clipping the wall again on the outside, this time of turn 16 into 17. On the final corner of 18, the Haas driver crossing the line. It's a 132.8, but it's a 132.7 from Atom, so maybe not as big of an improvement as I would expect from a driver without like massive slide. But as Henna's in the McLaren, a 131.4. So there we go. That's probably more on par with what the other drivers are going to set. Cotter's a 133.6. So that's Domi crossing the line. That's 131.4. Third for the Ferrari. Lucia currently sitting in pole though, 130.9. He's leading Vettel by just 0.04 of a second. Jones at 131.3. That puts him now third place ahead of Domi.
Very fast racers in this race. Yoda right now, he's just set a purple sector 2. He's gonna, excuse me, sector 1, as he's making his way through sector 2 right now in the racing point, utilizing these curbs. He won this race in tier 1 last season. He had to go back to front twice in that exchange, if I'm not mistaken, and we'll see what he's able to put forth here. It's quite a good lap so far as he makes his way down the sector 2 straight.
Yeah, freeware as well. And the AlphaTauri, he's coming through the final sector, but he looks like he's going to come into the pits. He has not had a good lap here.
Oh, Yoda has spun that car around, now looking for any traffic. He's got somebody, that's Fraser. Does he have anybody else? Yeah, this is a difficult position for him. Gotta get that car turned around. Lutra now coming through.
Yeah, Wisp's just set 131 flat, so that puts him into P3. Brainstew as well, he's coming through the final couple of corners in the Williams. See what he can do. It's pole position, or provisional pole I should say, a 130.1. 0.8 faster than anything else we've seen. Alex Biddo aborting his lap.
Very nicely done from him. Taking a look at Mikal in that Alpha Mayo at the moment. He's about to cross the line. He goes P2, a 130.4 on the softs.
Yep, a solid time from the Australian there in the Alfa Romeo. And everyone else sort of comes back to the pits. Interesting that, you know, a lot of people here aborted their laps. Freeway and Alex Biddo, I saw them come into the pits. Yoda as well, and he had that issue you're on about. So a few drivers here seem to be struggling on their first initial laps. Swifty, he had to set a lap coming through sector 3 to finish his out lap.
Okay, sorry for the delay there in the quali. We have a little bit of a gap. We were trying to get our stream going just once again there. Of course, we talked about how it had to get canceled due to connection problems, but we are back in quali now. 9 minutes remaining. Sorry for the interruption. And we have 4 drivers yet to set laps here. Steph, Freeware, Yoda, and Alex Biddo. Freeware is currently flying, as well as Steph. And I believe Steph's going to finish out his just ahead of the German in the AlphaTauri.
Yeah, and I've just seen Swifty finish a rather slidey flying lap at 131.344, identical to Jones's. Freeware, a big slide, and he's actually spun his car 180 coming out of turn 8 to turn 9. Just getting out the way of Henna's there. But there's Steph coming into the penultimate turn in the Renault around the final corner. It's going to be a 131.1, just edging out his teammate by 1.5 tenths there.
Neatly done. There's another driver we can look at, Mr. Domi in the Ferraris coming down through in the scarlet red car as he enters into the sector 2 long straight here.
Yeah, someone we haven't seen set a time yet. Yoda, he's flying as well, as is Alex Biddo, just behind him. Both now coming through sector 2. We got Domi, half a second up on his previous best. Currently in 12th, he's just been demoted by, I believe, Jake in the Red Bull, but it's going to be 9th place for him, 131.1.
Yeah, neatly done from him. Current gap to leader is from 1st down to 10th position, 982. 0.982. Fraser jumping up. Oh man, this grid is getting tight. Less than a tenth separating the top three. 300ths of a second for Fraser between Brainstew, and Yoda's right behind him.
Yeah, Alex Bedo just crossed into 7th as well, 130.4, and Yoda finished out his lap with a huge slide around the final corner, but obviously that start-finish line is right around the corner. It's just there as soon as you come around turn 18, you cross the finish line pretty much instantly, so not costing him too much time, I shouldn't think, in a third place for him.
This is a very, very rapid grid.
I believe Mikau, he's just started another fly. He's currently 4,000ths of a second behind his teammate Vettel, both in the Alfa Romeos this evening.
Following him down through turn 2 here in that Alfa Romeo. We have this very massive left hand turn 3. He is not up on his time. He's currently a 10th off his personal best at the moment.
Yeah, and that could cost him. He's only, 3/10 off of pole right now, and that curb launching him off into the outside runoff area. Big slide as well through turn 10. This lap not going to be his best, I don't think, of the evening.
Yeah, definitely not. And improving on this lap right now.
Someone who is improving, Brainstew, the provisional pole sitter right now. He's up just under 2/10 on his previous best, and this might put him in the 129s if he can nail sector 3 here. The Williams driver coming through turns 15 and 16 now on these tight left-right. Couple of corners now into the penultimate 90-degree turn through turn 18. A 130.1 to beat, and it's going to be a 129.7. An absolutely rapid time coming out of the Williams.
Definitely a good time from him.
He becomes the first person to break under 130, and he's done it by quite a large margin as well.
Wisp in the AlphaTauri right now. He's flying through sector 2. Taking a lot of the runoff here in Russia, but he can do so because we do once again have that regular corner cutting enabled here for these 100% distance races. Just letting the drivers kind of relax, let loose, I guess, and they're letting it loose on the curbs. So Wisp going to be looking to improve. He is currently improving by a massive amount. Nearly 7/10 is what he's improved by coming through sector 2 on this lap. So he's going to be looking to sling himself quite far into those 130 times, but there's a big kick out there from the Honda powered car. We'll see what he's able to do come the finish. He improves to P9. He lost a lot of time. We saw him have about 7/10 in the bag there, but he lost a lot of it. Alex Bido now coming out of the pit lane just ahead of him, and you can see Wisp pulling back now.
Yep, the other AlphaTauri, Freeware, the only driver yet to set a lap time. That's about to change as he rounds the final corner, and it's going to be a 131.1. But the thing here is that Freeware's on this medium compound tires. He hasn't quite broken into the top 10. So whether we'll see the change to softs or not, he hasn't got long to do it though if he wants to.
That's right. Just shy of 3 minutes remaining here left in this session. The current gap to leader, now that we've had some more times come across, is from first down to 9th position, 1 second, and that's Wisp there in 9th position. And to be fair, Swifty has just come through with a 1:087 in 10th, so he's done that in the Williams. Nicely done from him. We were cutting the circuit to get back into the pit lane. Max Inkster is currently on a flyer. He's up on his time. At the very least, that's what the sector reading told me, but I believe he's about to tell us as he crosses into sector 2.
As you're saying, this grid's close, but it's even closer than that because obviously Brainstew pretty much 4/10 faster than they are, so that 1 second closest, if you go from second, it extends even further down the grid. So a very tight grid here, and that's what we love in these endurance races, where it's 100% as Domi spins big time out of turn 4, just about avoiding the wall. He's rolling his car backwards, so just trying to get out of the way of Mick out.
I just saw Max Singster pull the corner cut of his career on this flying lap, and we'll have to see if he's able to keep the lap valid throughout this one. He's currently 8/10 up on his current position in this timing tower, which could slingshot him as far as 10th position here.
Yeah, getting into the top 10, especially from 17th right now, would be a vast improvement on where he is at the moment.
P11, just shy of P10. He is 3 milliseconds off of Swifty right now in that fight for P10.
Does grant him that free tire choice though, so whether that's something he's going to want to try and take advantage of. He doesn't really have much of a choice, I don't think, with how little time there is left in the session, at least on our end. Jones, he's flying in the Renault, coming onto the long straight, but sort of separated. He's getting a little bit of a toe off of Yoda, who is on an outlap right now. Down into turn 13 then. Keeping it nice and clean. Early on the power, maybe a little too early. It sort of backed off very briefly. You can see he's running very low fuel as well.
Jones in P17 looking to improve. What's his split going to be here? He's got Vettel just ahead of him in this Alfa Romeo, finishing a lap, I believe. Or he may have just been starting, but it's not going to be an improvement for Jones. Yoda behind him, as you said, going to be starting a flyer. There he is in the Racing Point. He's currently P4. As I said, he won this race in Tier 1 last season. We'll see if that pace is transferred over into F1 2020, and we'll see what he's able to do around the Autodrome here. Big cuts coming through turn 1 and 2. And that's going to remain a valid lap, and we'll have to see if he's going to be up on this time. But that is just a sight to see. That even with the regular corner cutting, they can go that wide.
Yeah, some of these drivers really maximizing the limits as Fraser takes a huge chunk out of the corner. I'm going to be so curious to see what he is going to do. He is maximizing track limits to their fullest potential here. Currently in 3rd place. Mikau crosses the line. He finishes in 4th place for the time being, a 130.2. Now, Fraser is about to cross into Sector 3. We're going to see what he is doing. He is 4/10 up, almost 5/10 up on his previous best. Alex Biddo's done a 129.1. I didn't see the notification for that, but the Ferrari driver, absolutely rapid pace. Can Fraser here challenge it? He takes another chunk out of this time, turn 16. These track limits are being fully abused by these drivers. There is Alex Biddo. Fraser crossing the line. It's 2nd place at 129.2.
Rain Stew's up on his time as well. Yoda crosses 3rd quickest. Rain Stew rounding the final turn now. What's the time going to be from the Italian? Even. Am I seeing that right?
Exactly
Did he just...
Yeah.
I think he's just repeated his previous lap. BTFU flying in the McLaren into the pit lane. He's got no fuel left.
That was a sight to behold. Getting the exact same lap that he got before. Also Yoda sneaking into P3.
We were flying through turn 3 right now.
I do believe he's the last driver on track right now that is actually flying.
He's on these softs as well. He's not up a massive amount though on this lap. Last driver to set a time here. It's going to be freeware, and there's an AI ahead of him here. That's going to be Yoda's AI giving him, well, not really giving him anything, to tell you the truth. Not going to impact his lap too much, but he's set that purple sector 2 now as he makes his way through sector 3. What is the time going to be? Looking to improve on P14. He's on the softs. He set that time on the mediums, of course. It's a 131.122 he's looking to improve on. Making his way into the penultimate turn, now through into the final turn to cross the line. What's the time going to be? It is going to be P5, a nearly 1.2 second improvement from the German, and I believe that's going to be the last driver to set a time here in the qualifying session. Alex Bido on pole position.
Yeah, very impressive qualifying session, and you can see how quickly the likes of Alex Bido and Fraser, they're adapted to the loosened corner cutting restrictions as they just took chunks out of corner, and they're fully entitled to do that, I guess, here in this qualifying session.
Definitely, and once again, Alex Bido on pole position in the Ferrari, a 129.1 from him. It's Fraser there, the Dane, in P2 with the Haas car, 129.220, just shy of 300ths of a second off of Alex Bido. And then you have Yoda there, the Albanian, in third with the Racing Point car today. Brainstew and Freeware rounding out your 4 and 5 drivers, and Max Singster with a disqualification in this one as we jump in to this 100% distance racing endeavor around the Russian circuit, the Sochi Autodrome. Of course, my name is Strifium. Joining me as always is Unicorn in the broadcast. Well, not lately, but very, very regularly we're in the booth together. But in the endurance series, of course, Mikau has normally been joining me, but he is racing today, and Unicorn gets to be on the mic. So lots of fun ahead of us, Unicorn.
Yeah, and I just like to point out, Striff, we are not crazy. Brainstew has just posted a screenshot of his times. They were absolutely identical, 129.764 twice. So our minds weren't playing tricks on us. He did set 2 identical lap times.
That's always lovely to see.
But yeah, it's going to be exciting back here at the 100% races as we just get everyone finalizing strategies and that. And that's, something that these races provide, the full race length strategies. The tires go different distances. Obviously, they're not scaled down to match the usual race distances that we run in the league, 50%.
Jumping into this formation lap now. Once again, Alex Bido on pole position. That's going to be Fraser in P2. Yoda in P3. The drivers all having a little bit of fun here in Russia. They had a long race day today, and they're just kind of letting loose here. But of course, Bido, Fraser, Yoda, your top 3. Brainstew in 4th. Freeware in 5th. That's Mikau in 6th. Luktra in 7th. Jake in 8th. Vettel in 9th, with Domi rounding out your top 10. And he's on those medium compound tires. Wisp is there in the AlphaTauri. He's 11th with Swifty, the only other driver on the grid on the mediums, in 12th, with BTFU and Henners in the McLarens, 13th, 14th respectively. Then you have Stefan Jones behind them in the Renault cars, as well as Finn in 17th, Adam in 18th, Cotters in 19th, and Max Singster, the last driver, bringing up the rear of this grid. And now we've seen a a signature disqualification under the formation lap. So Domi and Wisp are going to come together, and they're going to get reset to the grid, and they're going to have some cold tires heading down into turn 2.
Yeah, that's not going to do Domi any favors. He's one of the only drivers on medium compound tire. Him and Swifty. Everyone else on the softs. But yeah, those cold tires not going to do either of them any favors. But Domi's going to have even less traction than the other drivers on this grid, Wisp included. Brainstew as well now. Despite the fact that I think that car was probably AI controlled at that point.
You never know these days. You never know these days.
But here we are. Then the cars that haven't been disqualified finally making their way around to the grid.
Everything quieting down now from our perspective here as we jump to try and latch on to one of these drivers near the front of this grid. This race about to begin. The last cars to the grid. The engines are revving. Everything is looking like it's ready to go here in Sochi. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights on here in Russia. Alex Bitto and the rest of this grid are away as we head down in. It's Freeware already capturing Brainstew with a fantastic start into P4 as the drivers make their way tapping through turn 1 down into turn 2. This is the real stretch here, and how's it going to go? Yoda, Freeware having an exchange as well. Cars going a little bit wide as they can with the regular corners, but it's been a clean getaway here so far. As we come through turn 3, this major left-hander, Alex Bitto still leading. Freeware into P2. Fraser in the Haas has dropped. Few cars going wide there. There may have been an incident. Who is that? Let's take a look. Did everybody get away clean? It looks like everybody clean so far. Not too much going on. Fraser and Brainstew still having a wheel-to-wheel exchange. Fraser losing out big time here. The Italian holding off the Haas. We're going to jump on board with Fraser as they move through down into Sector 2. Freeware on the rear of Alex Bitto. He goes wide. Brainstew's going to collect the AlphaTauri as a result, or is he? They're wheel-to-wheel coming through the right-hander. It's the Italian versus the German with Fraser on the rear of this action. Wow, what a race start we've seen here in Russia, Unicorn.
Yeah, Hender's had a beautiful getaway right off the start. He was up 4 places, challenged Vettel down into turn 2, but didn't get ahead, and now he's sort of fending off Steph in the Renault down for P10. But yeah, everyone getting a fairly clean getaway, as we have had a few people. Wisp and Jones have had troubles in some starts, as well as Finn now as well. He's having whatever, you can see them dropping off the back of this grid a little bit. But now, coming out of the first lap, still.
Mikhail with a really good run out of that final turn. Jake in the Red Bull, the first target on his list here for lap 2. A little bit of a timing tower desync as we are on lap 2 at the moment. Blue flags popping up, which is not even possible. But of course, now coming out of turn 2, Mikhail on the inside of the Red Bull. Is he going to get that move done? He had so much speed in that Alfa Romeo. He has made it into P7. Lovely from him. Meanwhile, Alex Bitto leading this race right now. It looks like Luktra, for some reason, has jumped his way to the front of this grid, but he is actually in P8 under serious threat from Vettel, but he's in a fight against Jake, looking to catch up with Mikhail. The timing tower playing those mind games. Razor in P4.
Crazy. Trying to keep up with this timing tower, but DRS seems to have been enabled potentially a lap early. It's saying that Fraser has access to it, but it doesn't appear that the car can actually open that rear wing, and as a result, he's not closing in anywhere near as fast on Brainstew as he would if DRS was enabled. We're going to see that this lap, though, and Yoda has caught Fraser pretty rapidly here.
Yeah, and Luktra's made it ahead on Jake as well in that Mercedes. The Red Bull of Jake now into 8th position, left for Vettel in that other Alfa Romeo to perhaps dispatch. And Freeware sets the fastest lap of the session, a 136 flat here so far. He's currently running in P2. DRS has been enabled. Vettel gonna have it right off the hop here, as are all of these drivers. It looks like Yoda with the move on Fraser up the inside down into turn 2. Fraser with a little bit of a brush on the outside with the wall. That's gonna cost him dearly, with Mikhail with a clean run through turn 2, looking to catch up as best he can with this action. This fighting is gonna cost him time, and the Australian's gonna be really happy about that.
Yeah, Fraser almost running into the rear of Yoda there. A little bit of a lockup, just about avoiding contact with the rear of that racing point, but like you said, it's going to cost him time, and he's got Mikhail hungrily looking at him from the rear, trying to squeeze his way past.
This entire grid right now, not a lot of gaps to really zero in on. Everything under a second. The only thing to talk about right now, really, you have Henners there in P10. He's got a little bit of a gap forming and a train behind him. BTFU very tight to Domi. Swifty's on these medium compound tires, and he's got a mob of cars behind him, and Max Singster and Adam, and Cotters is doing what he can to catch up. But we've just got fantastic racing here, as now there's been an issue. I think that's Brainstew. Freeware coming together a little bit, perhaps a little bit of an exchange and apology, but Freeware in P2, Brainstew falling behind him, and this is going to give Yoda an opportunity to maybe make up some time. We have yellow flag coming up through in Sector 3 here, and I'm not entirely sure what's caused it. Luktra perhaps has had an issue, and he's off. He's dropped majorly into P17 now. What on earth? His entire front left wing is missing.
Not quite sure what's happening with Fraser and Mikhail. They were side by side through Sector 3. Mikhail not being able to get past, but now with DRS down, this long start-finish straight, if you can even call it that, straight into P5. And Jake has joined them as well, and Vettel not too far behind, but now BTFU and Domi are side by side coming through turn 2. The McLaren tight on the inside of turn 3 now, but Domi carrying a lot of speed around the outside. He's going to have the inside down into turn 4 here, and it's going to be the Ferrari with the inside, but because of the track now, his BTFU can just carry his speed off the off track. Now into turn 5, the pair still side by side. Again, you can see BTFU defending around the outside, pretty much off the track entirely. Down into turn 6, Domi cutting the corner very wide, and he is now into P9.
What a fight we're seeing between these two. Meanwhile, Vettel getting ahead of Jake. He's into P7. Jake now on the rear of him, but it's going to be Vettel with the DRS. Well, both of them have DRS. They're still tight in this train. Fraser quite a ways ahead still. Vettel not going to have an opportunity to make a move, and that's going to just equalize the run he had on Jake, perhaps. So Jake sticking with him in a way that Vettel does not want to see right now. BTFU and Domi still exchanging. That's BTFU in 10th. We've had a retirement. It looks like Steph's had an issue. Not entirely sure what's caused it, but that car is on circuit right now, just exiting through turn 4.
Yeah, I don't know if it moved there. I think. Oh, and that's Finn smacking into the walls as well. Finn's retired from the session. He's lost his front left wheel. Interesting, that's only a VSC because he is parked dead in the center of turn 7.
Marshall's working fast maybe as the cars are getting closer, but this VSC going to throw a little bit of a wrench in some of the equation that we've been seeing happen here. We're only on lap 5, and it's been a wild race to start.
Yep, for sure. Crazy. I think the car has disappeared. So, like you said, the Marshals really working as best they can. The car would be situated right here. But there we are. We are back under green flag racing conditions. And the front 3 very tight together. As
Yeah,
they come.
for sure. It's the Ferrari, Alpha Tauri, and the Williams currently running in the top 3. They're currently 1.5 seconds ahead of Yoda in that racing point.
Yeah, DRS, is it going to be able to aid any of these 3 guys? It doesn't look like it's going to cause any positional changes in the top 3. Looking further back, Vettel getting fairly close to Fraser, but no move to speak of into the tight right-hander of turn 13. One of those infamous right 90-degree turns around this track. Brainstew, though, finds a way past Freeware in the 3rd sector. Somewhere you don't see a lot of overtaking, but Brainstew sort of breaking that chain.
Oh,
it's going to be...
Max Inkster just had a big spin. Adam kind of went into him a bit, fortunately not taking any damage on that front wing, but he's gone into 12th position, and we caught it from this angle. And jump back with Freeware and Brainstew here in this battle for the lead. That could have almost caused a safety car there. As now there's been another issue. That's Henners in P18 up to his old tricks. So who on earth knows what he wants to do?
Yeah, this grid's starting to sort of thin out. Now people getting into their rhythm. A few incidents have occurred to separate the drivers. But it's still a lot of tight racing in different pockets on the grid. The top 3 still as Freeware catches a little slide out of turn 7.
An absolute hunt for podiums right now between these 4. Yoda's entered the mix as well. That Racing Point's absolutely pushing through into try to get that DRS range picked up. He wants to escape Mikau. Mikau in P5 right now is absolutely hunting as well. Take a look at the position changes so far here in this one. Alex Bitto started this race in lead. He is still leading. Brainstew started in 4th position. He's up to 2nd, as is Freeware up 2 positions. Yoda started this race in 3rd, but he's dropped into 4th. Mikau starting it in 6th. He's moved up 1 slot. Fraser, the biggest one in the top 6 right now to lose out. He's dropped 4 positions. You also have Vettel there. He's up 2. Jake has remained P8 with Domi up 1 and BTFU up 3 for the top 10.
Brain Stew flying past Alex Biddo down into turn 2, but it's not done concrete. He's got a little bit of a look at the inside in the Ferrari, but Brain Stew holds on to P1 for now. Freeware though, he's carrying a lot of speed around the outside of turn 3. Not going to have to look up the inside into turn 4. But these guys still jostling for the podium positions, like you said. And I don't think they're going to stop doing that for the time being.
Well, this fighting gonna really cost them some time to Yoda, and he's wanting to see that exactly so that he can catch up, perhaps make a move through. You got to take a look at the ERS management for these drivers right now. Alex Biddo, the current driver with the lowest amount of energy at his disposal. Mikau right now, 2.6 seconds behind. Yoda is just cruising, but he's got Fraser and Vettel not too far behind him, so Mikau is really trying to escape these guys. He's got to get these guys out of his DRS.
Yeah, and he really needs the guys up front to battle away, cost themselves some time so he can get DRS himself on Yoda and start clawing his way into these podium positions if he wants to see himself up there celebrating at the end of this race. We have another issue. It looks like it's McLaren of Hennes again, because he's swiftly sliding around. No damage on the McLaren though. As Freeware, a lot of speed coming through. Out of turn 1 and flying up the inside of Alex Biddo down into the second corner and a little bit wide, but he's going to hold P2 for the time being.
Jake has jumped into the pit lane. Looks like he's gone on to some fresh mediums, so he's going to get taken for some positions now, as he is the second driver in this race to pit. Henner's the first. Henner's could be a potential beneficiary of a safety car right now, but we haven't seen one yet, and we've seen a couple of crashes that could have warranted one, but nothing major yet. And Yoda within a second of Alex Biddo right now. These soft compound tires are really starting to come into play for Ware, I think. In comparison, some drivers, their setups perhaps being a little bit better to the tires, because we've seen a lot of these drivers come together now as the tires degrade.
Yeah, entire degradation is going to benefit one man, and that's Domi, currently sitting in P8 on the medium compound tires. This driver's ahead of him. He's got Vettel, Fraser, and Mikkel battling away for 5th place, and that might allow him to not only gain time now, but when their tires start to fall off, he's going to be there to pick up the pieces. Hennes picks up a 10-second time penalty for corner cutting, but he's actually outside of turn 2, similar to what Lewis Hamilton did earlier today.
Alex Biddo with a charge down into turn 2. He looks at Freeware's inside, but he's not nearly close enough to get a move in.
No, and the gap ahead, Brain Stew now pulled out a 1.5 second lead to Freeware and P2, and they're not pulling away really from Yoda. And it looks like Hennes has decided to retire this race in the pit lane.
Yeah, it looked like it might have been a failed safety car deployment attempt on him there. I don't know, going into the wall, taking a 10-second penalty, and then taking a 5-second speeding in the pit lane penalty with a retirement to boot. Yikes. Fraser, P6. Less than half a second separating him and Mikau still.
Alex Biddo as well, he's got DRS on Freeware, the gap, half a second. I don't know, he's not got ERS, and I don't think he's going to catch up enough to get him down into turn 13, but it is a little bit of a touch on the rear end to the AlphaTauri, but neither car spinning and the positions remain the same. But that kind of thing is going to cost them time, and that's only going to help one person, and that's Yoda in the racing point behind them.
Yeah, he's been slowly doing well to stay within this range of podium position. Now he's going to want to try and get one for himself here. We're on lap 10. DRS not utilizing a large amount of that battery. Alex Biddo Not a lot of battery at his disposal right now. Freeware, not as much for him. And Yoda is in a good position here. And we saw him in a similar position with battery deployment like that in Monza. Brainstew really shaky on these soft compound tires coming outside of turn 2. And that's cost him nearly a second to Freeware behind him. And that means Freeware is going to get back into the DRS range. And the train has now caught this leader of Brainstew. That mistake, not good for him at all.
Yeah, just looking a little bit further down the grid, BTFU and Domi, they've just had little exchange positions. Domi now P8, getting ahead of the McLaren. I don't know where they were before they entered corner 2, but they were side by side in turn 2, and then Domi around the outside either held or gained P8, and those medium tires seem to be paying off for him right now. And I'm interested to see how and when he can catch these guys on the soft compound tires ahead of him. We've got Fraser charging down behind Mikau. He's going to have to be early on the brakes, though, to avoid running into the rear of that Alfa Romeo.
Domi and BTFU still having an exchange. BTFU with a little bit of a... Ooh, it's very tight between these two. BTFU got cut off kind of to the inside there. Domi around the outside now. Is he going to be able to get it done here with BTFU? Still a tight battle between these two unfolding right now. That's what you love to see. Nobody with any damage right now. Just hard racing.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. Freeware, DRS on Brainstew, but not really gaining as much as you'd maybe think that DRS would net him on the car ahead. And obviously Brainstew, he's got no one ahead of him, so he's not being the beneficiary of any DRS, so he's only losing out. And Freeware just didn't seem to be able to gain on the Williams ahead, so I don't know what sort of setup Brainstews are running, but it seems to give him plenty of speed down the straights, and that might be costing the drivers behind him just a little bit every time they go down one of these long straightaways. And Yoda seems to be dropping off a little bit as well. He's just about 4 or 5 tenths over the course of the last couple of laps, but he's still within DRS, and I think that's probably just where he wants to be right now. He doesn't want to be losing time. He just wants to be sitting back, waiting, conserving ERS, which he's doing very well as Freeware around the outside of Brainstew. He's going to slot himself into P1 of this race on lap 11.
Yeah, and we were on board for a moment there with BTFU as he was having a very intense battle with Domi, but it seems to have ceased for now. He's now drawn 4 tenths back on the rear of that Ferrari. Well, DRS now. Could he be looking to make another exchange with the Ferrari here? He's quite close once again. Less than half a second is the gap as we have those gaps spread all out throughout the screen.
He's taken too much on the inside curb. And it's completely launched his car and spun him round.
Well, Mikau, Fraser, Vettel all going by him now. Freeware. What an exchange. Fraser and Mikau. That's Fraser getting Mikau as a result of Mikau. We saw he was kind of first on the scene there with Alex Bitto, and he had to kind of slow things down as Alex Bitto was trying to get that car going again.
Yeah, I don't think Alex Bitto wanted to be stuck at the side of that track for any longer than he had to be, and he made the split-second decision that he could get back on track before these guys arrived, and he was right, but only just, and Mikau having to, dodge and weave away from that Ferrari.
Yeah, it's these two Alfa Romeos, 5 and 6 right now, of Mikau and Vettel, that are going to be looking to chop through this grid. They both got super pace. Yoda has had a major issue right now. He's in the sector 2 straight. He's got oncoming traffic. He's going to get that car moved over, and this is the second time now in Russia that we've seen Yoda, I believe, have an issue. If I'm not mistaken, we saw it in qualifying as well. Or was that somebody else? I could be mistaken now. But it's not the first time we've seen a car have to sit there waiting for oncoming traffic to go by. And that's going to promote Vettel and Mikau
as well. He's got serious damage on that racing point on his front wing, and I would be very surprised if he didn't come in here. He pretty much has to. And in he comes. But the downforce almost made him miss the pit lane. He's lucky the pit wall doesn't start on the second to last corner. Otherwise, that can be catastrophic for him as Mikhail back past Fraser for what is now P3 in this race. Due to the issues both Alex Bedo and Yoda have faced. Alex Bedo now sitting in 6th place, and Domi on these medium combat tires now inherits yet another place into P7. It'll be very interesting to see how his strategy plays into the final results here, as it appears Luke Shaw has had an off and he's going very slowly in sector 3.
Just an intense race, a lot of overtaking action right now, and all of these drivers from 1st to 6th on these soft compound tires, but they've pulled away a significant gap here, especially those top two, to Mr. Domi in P7, and he's on those mediums with BTFU not too far behind him in 8th right now. And as I say it, that's BTFU getting ahead of the Ferrari. Going to be a switchback though, I do believe, with Domi with the DRS and overtake. Is he going to be able to get the speed that he needs to catch up with this McLaren? He's going to look to the inside. Very tight, a little bit. Oh, he holds the brakes. He squeezes BTFU as best he can, but it's not going to be enough. BTFU holding well in 7th for the time being. With a move back to the inside from the Ferrari. Is he going to get it done this time around? Both drivers, both front wings fully intact. BTFU holding defensively quite well. But that is going to be Domi on the mediums ahead of that McLaren. A little bit of a lock up there from the Ferrari, but this has just been a fantastic battle that's been lasting laps as Mikhail and Fraser have another exchange. That's going to be Fraser into P3 with a lockup coming through 2. And Mikhail back into P4 with his teammate on the rear. But I have a feeling we're going to see these drivers do the tango for some time as BTFU now. Ooh, he gets on the brakes a little bit earlier than Domi here. Domi holds 7 round the outside, switching on back to the inside. Returns 2 and, of course, 3. He's out in front.
Yeah, Fraser breezing past Mikhail there with the use of DRS and ERS, and he's holding it fairly comfortably right now ahead of the Alfa Romeo, but it's now going to be Mikhail's turn with the DRS as they come out of turn 10, but Fraser has pulled a fairly sizable 6/10 gap to the Alfa Romeo behind, but he has now got DRS enabled. He's not going to catch the Haas quick enough though, I don't think. Yeah, down into turn 13. Fraser holding on to 3rd.
What a long race, and this really is the endurance series. Of course, 14 laps now has been all that we've seen so far. It's 53 for this one. It's Max Inkster. Swifty's so tight right now, coming down that sector 2 straight, wheel to wheel. Who's going to be the winner out of this exchange? Swifty long side now, around the outside. Is he going to get it done on the Haas? He's leading that Haas right now. Ooh, it's so tight between these two, and it's what you love to see in racing, is those types of exchanges. Nobody losing out major with any damage. Swifty into 10th position, and I don't think Max Inkster's done with him. He's on these softs still. They've got a little bit of pace. He's going to have the DRS coming out through the final turn here, and if you look at this timing tower right now, there's just so much happening. Jake getting ahead of Adam as Adam jumps into the pit lane here. And we still have so much unfolding in the front of this grid as Max Inkster gets ahead of Swifty back into P10, down into turn 2.
Yeah, we've still got these battles going on for 3rd and 4th between Mikhail and Fraser, and Vettel and Beto as well. They're battling out now for P5. Beto seems to have recovered from his incident. I say that. I whacked him with the commentator's curse. A little bit of a slide out of turn 9 there. But he's still going to get DRS to help him recover.
BTFU in P8 right now. He's been sticking with Domi so well here on these softs. The big question is, at what point are those softs going to hit their cliff point? And I think that the best benchmark for that is to really look at BTFU in comparison to Domi. Because Domi, you have to think about this. We checked in with him a few moments ago. The gap was around 8 seconds to those front runners on those softs. Now it's around 11.1, so those softs are still yielding a good portion of pace. Max Inkster and Swifty in another exchange. That's Swifty with the DRS. He's back into 10th position.
Yeah, Fraser 9/10 down on his personal best, so that's sort of what we're looking at in terms of pace drop-off so far in this race, as Mikhail retakes P3 from the Haas driver. No response through turns 2 and 3, but
if you're having a serious look at Domi right now, Unicorn down into turn 2 around the outside. Is he going to get it done? Oh, the traction on exit there. I think it worked better for Domi. But great pace coming out of this McLaren. He's looking to fight as hard as he can.
Yeah, too much action, a lovely problem to have. As we've got Max Inkster and Swifty, they're still going side by side through turn 3 now. It's the Softs versus the mediums. Swifty in the Williams around the outside of turn 3. Is he going to be able to dive up the inside? He's not. Braking fairly early to allow Max Inkster to go through without any contact between the two cars.
Oh, and we've had an
Atom's out of the
issue.
race.
Yeah, that is Adam out of this race. So, Sector 1 yellow flag. I do believe he is in the pit lane. Luke Tra.
Oh, and Fraser. Sorry.
What happened with Fraser?
Almost ran into the back, and now he's spun the car. He almost ran into the back of Mikhail there into turn 15, avoided it, and now he almost, well, he did spin it out of turn 16, which has allowed Bitto and Vettel through. But yeah, I don't know if that's soft tires or just a little bit of a lapse in his concentration there, but
well, these tires, 16 laps, soon to be 17 laps old for these soft runners. It's a big question of when are they going to really start to affect them. BTFU's actually started to drop off of Domi a little bit.
yeah, well, with the softs going 16 laps, I'm very much inclined to believe that a one stop here is definitely possible. It depends on the pace of those hards. You can see Yoda. He's already opted for them as already. He's 3 laps into his stint, so I would be surprised to see him come in for another pit stop unless he has another incident or a safety car pops out. But
Alex Bitto, I saw him hunting down Vettel here. He had a little bit of a slip up on the softs a few turns back. I think these softs are starting to really wear out here for these drivers, and all of the fighting isn't giving them the longevity that they should be getting out of these tires. I don't think either. This grid has been so tight from start to now. We're here on lap 17. Luktra has been caught up by the leader now, and you hate to see it. Luktra, a driver with a lot of speed here, as he's going to get shown the blue flag coming through the final turn.
yep, and that's going to give Brainstew, I think, some DRS it is. So Williams now with DRS in first place. And Luke Schutt learning by the 2 leaders. You love to see it, abiding by the rules.
Yeah, this is the best place to really let them by, really unimpede them. Kind of got a tricky toe as well. It was Brain Stew, and Freeware following along in his slipstream. Vettel's come into the pit lane, but he's gotten off these softs. He's gotten onto the medium compound tires, and we're going to have to see where he drops out here, as Swifty and Max Inkster, who have been fighting for quite some time on the 2 different compounds of tire, are going to be heading down through past this pit exit. And Vettel made it out quite far ahead of them into 9th position on these fresh mediums. And now a big question is, how long do the mediums go around here? Of course, being a 100%er and with not really any data even from a 50% endeavor around here just yet, it's going to be extremely interesting to see how long these mediums go, as Swifty and Max Inkster still in this exchange for position. They have been fighting over this final points position for at the very least the last 8 laps. I've lost track, but Jake now has entered this party. He's on the 9-lap old mediums, and he's in that Red Bull currently in 12th position.
Yeah, Vettel on these meetings, like you said, very interesting, and wouldn't be surprised to see him go for some softs towards the end as well. But you have to question, when are the rest of these guys going to start hopping in? We've seen the likes of Fraser, he's had issues over the past few laps. Alex Bitter obviously had that jump, and there's Fraser clunking into the wall. His front wing's fine, but he is going to dive into the pit lane, so the Haas coming in as well, but he gets a 5-second penalty for coming into the pit lane too quickly.
Ooh, Jake on the rear, Max Inkster, a little bit of a love tap. Max Inkster gets the car back under control as Fraser is going to exit the pit lane. The big question is, where is he going to come out? Because this is going to cost him a lot. We saw him have that issue a few laps ago. Swifty, Max Inkster, and Jake. This train now charging down through. They've passed Fraser. Fraser now. Where's Yoda? He's gonna get Fraser as well into P12.
Yeah, the only thing that I can see that's being advanced for gives Fraser a little bit of chance to get some DRS on the car ahead. Just about in that gap, and that's going to allow him. You can see 3 cars ahead of these two though. Swifty and Jake battling out for 10th with Max Inkster just ahead of them.
Yeah, this has just been constant overtaking and battling back and forth with these drivers, and you love to see it. Not one of them with any damage at present. Of course, Max Inkster, he's on these soft compound tires. Swifty's on these 18-lap old mediums. And it's Jake now. Swifty goes quite wide coming down through there. Swifty holds the inside. Jake around the outside now. DRS in full swing as he uses that battery. Now Swifty flicks the switch. He's moving up through 10. He's got the DRS on Max Inkster. He's going to go around the outside looking for P9. Is he going to get it? Yes, he does. Max Inkster now under threat from the Swede. That's Jake in the Red Bull. Max Inkster holds on to 10th for now. This is a very intense battle we're seeing for this final points positions, 9 and 10. Drivers pitting now. Alex Bido, Wisp.
I think what we're seeing there, Swifty are able to go around the outside of turn 13. Not something obviously aided by DRS, but I think that the tire advantage he's got as Max Inkster loses another position. Not even aided by DRS this time, just around the final corner,
Yeah,
I think.
and Yoda's here as well. Yoda's going to get Max Inkster, and he's not going to be happy about that. Yoda on these 6-lap old hards. We're coming down into turn 2. Yoda has a good inside line through here. Max Inkster trying to utilize that power. He's now 19, soon to be 20 laps old on these softs. And who else is going to get an overtake in here? It's Fraser. Fraser looking at Yoda. Is he going to get Yoda? No, he doesn't make the move down through here, turn 4. But of course, Yoda now on the rear of Jake. This is fantastic as the train has grown massively. Fraser with a move. Oh man, and he barely gets that back going. His teammate Max Inkster getting back through into 11th. Fraser is extremely lucky that he didn't suffer any kind of damage to there, and he takes a big cut through the circuit there to get himself back into 11th. These drivers all so fortunate and happy that the regular corner cutting serving them well here around Sochi.
Yeah, for sure. Fraser very lucky not to, affect it, but it's now Yoda coming past Jake down into turn 13. Those fresh hards, not slowing him down at all as they got a few more drivers. We've got Mikau and Brainsteer to pit as Coddas has retired from the session, and that is not in the pit lane. He's actually come out of turn 4 and is now on the right hand side of the track with a broken car. So interesting. Mikau coming out just ahead, or just behind, sorry, of Alex Bido, and he's in 7th place. So not too bad for him coming out of the pit stop, but he is a couple places down on Vettel, his teammate who came in a couple laps earlier. Brainstew pitting as well. He's now into 4th place, so not too bad. Domi, though, in P2 on wearing mediums. I'm interested to see how much longer he can go on those tyres. How quickly the fresh mediums of Brainstew, Vettel, and the like catch him.
Well, we saw Yoda, Swifty now on his rear. Yoda's into P8. Fraser catching up with him, and Swifty's really going to start to feel those 20-lap old mediums as the drivers behind him on the fresher rubber. But right now we're watching this battle between Alex Bido and Vettel. Vettel in that Alfa Romeo has his teammate behind Alex Bido, and Alex Bido kind of in the sandwich here, wants to get out. He moves to the outside coming down into the right-hand turn, but that's going to give Vettel the inside good through here. Gives Alex a little bit of a squeeze. There's still wheel to wheel. A little bit of shake coming out of that Ferrari. Mikau now has entered the party, and he's going to be looking to perhaps get both of them here as Vettel continues to cost the Spaniard.
Fraser a large dive up the inside of Swifty into turn 13. Hasn't quite paid off for him, but he's now inside into 15. Still side by side, coming through 16. And it's going to be Fraser up into P9.
Vettel with no DRS now has Mikow and Alex Bitto hunting him down. It's going to be Alex Bitto with a move up the inside, but Vettel holds quite well with a great exit coming out of 2. Mikow watching this unfold in his end of things. He's looking at the inside of his teammate now coming through turn. Well, wow, that's very, very tight the way that turn works out. He's on the inside. He comes through. He's now switched to the outside, entering this right-hander. They're fighting, and it doesn't look like team orders are playing a role, but Mikow doesn't care. He is in. The P6 now looking to hunt down Alex Bitto ahead, and the gap is not that big for the Spaniard right now as the Australian is looking to catch up with the Ferrari.
Yeah, and up ahead of them, we got more battling. Freeware now flying past BTFU. Absolutely dominant out of turn 10. The soft tires just not holding a candle to the fresh mediums, and you can just see BTFU struggling for grip compared to the AlphaTauri ahead of him now. And surely this is his call. He's the last person on soft tires on track. This is surely got to be the pit lane for him, as Lucha gets a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane, and he retires from the session. BTFU staying out.
Yeah, quite a few retirements here in this one, of course, guys. For you watching the YouTube video here on the Misfits YouTube channel, we greatly appreciate it. My name's Strifium. Joining me is Unicorn. And if you like the racing, check out some of our other videos. All of our races to date have been uploaded in both full-length and highlight form. We've also got circuit guides available to watch, so hit that subscribe button if you're looking for a lot of virtual racing action, and we greatly appreciate all of your support.
Yeah, and speaking of virtual racing action, we've got Fraser. He's caught back up to Yoda, and he's got DRS slipstreaming down the right-hand side of the track. He goes to the left of the track. He's going to go around the outside here. Yoda, sorry, going back to the racing line, but again, Yoda just taking him right off the off track, but it's Yoda carrying a lot of speed around the outside of this long left-hander return 3, and he's back into P8. Who's going to hold it, though? Out of turn 4, a little bit of wheel banging from the pair, but mostly clean. Fraser very aggressively swinging back onto the track, and he holds P8 for the time being. He's just taking it off of the racing point, but
coming up to the front of this grid, Domi and Brain Stew on these fresh mediums versus the Ferrari now. He's come through with a big lockup. He's going to get it into first position, and Freeware is in on this action with a big compromise for that Ferrari. It's going to be the AlphaTauri through as well on these absolutely fresh medium compound tires. He is in a great position, but he's now not in a great position. He's had a big spin on these fresh tires. He's definitely cooked them. He's going to get that car turned back around. He's in P4. He's got traffic coming through. That's going to be Alex Bitto and Mikow moving through ahead on him. Vettel also going to get him. We're now going to have some very hot tires. He's going to spin again just outside of the pit entrance. And this is really bad as he tries to get the car turned back around and launch himself out through the final turn. Smooth operation to try and get that back under control there, but you hate to see it as he was in a serious bid for this possible race win. Rainsu now leading a 2.6 ahead of Domi, and Domi's on these very old medium compound tires.
Meanwhile, out of the final turn, Wisp getting a good exit on Swifty, but Swifty's kind of saved for the fact he's got DRS on the car in front, and there is BTFU exiting the pits, so he's now joined what has been a three-way fight, and it's 3 wide down into turn 2. Wisp very late on the brakes. Both the AlphaTauri and the Williams off the track, and the McLaren, he's still holding around the outside. It's Swifty on the left. Wisp just to the right of him. He's first into turn 4. BTFU slotting in between the pair of them. Swifty down in 12th now.
Wisp with a Hail Mary if I've ever seen one. He went down the inside of both cars, splitting them, turning them into a trio down into turn 2. And he managed somehow, I imagine with the regular corner cutting, to come out on top in that exchange. And it was a very, very, well, he needed to try and thread that needle perfectly in order to make that work. And I don't know if it would have been able to fly in a 50% endeavor around here, but still, definitely a big risk, and we like to see the risks.
Yeah, and that's what sort of this more, shall we say, casual racing experience for these drivers are. A little bit of a chance to let loose over 100%. Obviously, if this was a standard 50%, we'd be coming towards the closing stages, but now just halfway through, and it is Swifty, I think, the Williams having an issue in Sector 3. Don't know what's happened to his car, but he's coming in for repairs, it would seem. And some fresh tyres. It's 23 laps on those mediums he's spent.
Wisp very, very tight to the rear of Jake as BTFU actually overtakes him down into turn 2. BTFU's out ahead a little bit of a wheel bang there for Wisp and defense as they both utilize the curbs to suit their situations. BTFU into that final points position for the time being, and he's going to be looking to hunt down these drivers ahead on these very worn tires. And just when you thought this race might have been really heating up, I have to tell you, we are just approaching the halfway mark here as we are on lap 25 out of 53.
Yeah, these drivers now, this is where they would, you know, usually start to be like, this is the final, I'm pretty much done. But now, unlike the usual league races, they've still got pretty much the exact same distance to go and then a little bit more. So this is where the toll of being in a longer race is going to start playing on the guys who aren't used to it. But BTFU flying past Jake, the fresh tires, you know, beating out the older ones. So he comes back into P9, looking to charge his way up the field, try and catch Yoda, who's on those hard tires.
Wisp hunting down Jake right now. Wisp in 11th, looking for 10th. Jake leaving him space, a little bit of a brush of the wheels.
Up at the front, the gaps are sort of starting to widen a little bit, but Mikau's still looking at Alex Biddo.
There goes Wisp, getting Jake now for P10.
Everything's sort of calming down a little bit now that we've got these sort of larger gaps between most cars on the grid. As we've got a yellow flag, I think that is the AlphaTauri of Freeware on the left-hand side of the track. It is indeed. Fraser catching him very quickly, and up the inside he goes. He's going to lose the position to Yoda as well, presumably. So down into 8th, Freeware goes. Not quite sure what happened to the AlphaTauri there, but it looks like he suffered some front right wing damage.
He's not going to be too impressed with that at all. He was having such a great race. Mikau right now, less than half a second on the rear of, yes, that's right, it's Alex Biddo. Now Yoda has had some kind of disconnection issue. We'll look to get him back in here as soon as we can. Been a fantastic race so far. So much overtaking. Mikau on those medium compound tires. He sets a 134.966 on lap 27. Well, crossing into lap 27, excuse me.
Yep, hopefully Yoda can rejoin this session. Currently sitting in 7th. Not too many cars around him. Now, Alex Biddo and Mikau have caught up with Domi, who hasn't pitted as of yet in this race. Starting on the medium compound tires, and the two Ferraris, they're getting very close to each other. And Alex Biddo doesn't want to lose a lot of time here fighting with his teammate, because he's got Mikau hard charging behind them in the Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, I think Domi's about to lose 2 positions here, because there's not a lot he's going to be able to do about Mikau either. Both of these drivers with the DRS now. Alex Biddo isn't getting the green light to go ahead of the other Ferrari right now as they come down here. Is Mikau going to have an opportunity to get both of them? Alex with a very late move. He goes quite deep there. Domi squeezes him off, and there goes Mikau ahead of both of the Ferraris, and that's what you hate to see as a member of the Tifosi for the Scuderia Ferrari team right now, because it's Domi in 3rd. I do believe that's going to be Alex Biddo with a portion of damage on his front wing. It is. He's going to come into the pit lane. He's missing that front left end plate. And Domi on these 26-lap-old mediums has really cost his teammate here, as Mikau is going to rocket ahead here. DRS or not for Domi, I think it's going to be quite difficult for him to maintain pace on the rear of a driver with such fresh rubber. The DRS is the only thing helping him right now, as he gets through ahead into turn 2, and for some reason Vettel there, Max Inkster has just made it out ahead of Vettel.
Well, speaking of fresh rubber, interesting enough, Alex Biddo has gone for soft tyres, as Freeware has had another issue. He's just come into the pit lane for a fresh wing, I believe, and he's damaged that one, this time on the left-hand side. So I think he's going to be coming back into the pit lane.
Domi under major threat from the Australian right now, and we saw what it did last time around with Alex Bitto really pushing to get a move done on his teammate. Domi just kind of holding his place on that outside line. That late lunge from Alex Bitto up the inside, costing him dearly, costing him front end plate, as well as his teammate kind of squeezed him off. But Mikau is being patient here. He knows he's got the tires to way outlast this Ferrari ahead, but Domi has been showing fantastic pace around the circuit. Brain Stew 9 seconds ahead, leading this race in the Williams as he's just crossed into lap 29.
Well, you have to be thinking now, Domi yet to pit in this race, and we've got 24, 25 laps to go here. Is he going to try and one stop medium to soft? That is what I'm leaning towards, otherwise he would have pitted for hards, but it's going to be Mikau. 7 lap old mediums versus 28 lap old up into turn 2. The Alfa Romeo up the inside, but Domi defending. He's got a 3-second time penalty for all these off tracks he's done, but it's Mikau now up the inside into turn 3, and the Australian in the Alfa Romeo picking up P2 yet again from the Ferrari, but a good exit for Domi, a bad exit for Mikau through turn 4, and that's Domi back into P2. These tires maybe holding his pace back, but they're not holding his skill and his lines back, so still able to battle it out with Mikau here, and this is just great news for Brainstew, who's now 10 seconds up the road.
Yeah, Brainstew's going to be really happy not seeing any cars in his rearview mirrors right now that can contend for position, as I am sure he's going to be trying to cut through this field of lap drivers. We'll take a look at the gaps at present. You can see 2 drivers have been lapped in Max Inkster and Freeware, unfortunately, as a result of those penalties, with Mikau now on the outside, coming down into the right-hander. He's made it clean through ahead of the Ferrari, and could this be the sign that Domi needed to get off of these tires? He's made it over half the race now on these medium tires. He started the race. He's been on these tires for 29 laps. No pit from him. He is just stubborn as all hell here, as Fraser is in P5. Yoda, 15 lap old hards. What's he going to do? Because those are going to start to really shed some pace for him with BTFU on his rear. Currently 1.6 is the gap for BT, and he's on the mediums. Alex in P8, he's on those softs. He's going to have a ton of pace. 2.6 is the gap to him in P7. It's just been such a dynamic race here around Sochi.
Yeah, I've been following Yoda and Fraser for about the past lap here, and Fraser, his tyres have got the pace compared to Yoda's, but he seems to be sliding out a few corners, and he's trying to fully extend these track limits. In some places it's working for him. I think some places the curves maybe might be catching him a little bit off guard, and that's why he sort of dropped back into DRS range for the racing point behind him. So he needs to be a little bit more careful, I think, than what he's doing right now. Currently in P5, not looking too shabby, but it's a long gap to catch the cars ahead, and mistakes like that aren't going to help him.
Domi, I just can't believe 29 laps on these tires now. Yoda is in P6, 16 laps on those hards, and the hards here not going to have nearly as much pace. He's the only one on them at present, and he's in a field of mediums and quite a few soft runners, and much more fresh softs than mediums, I would say, as well, with Alex Bitto, Swifty, Jones, as well as Max Inkster all on those.
Yeah, well, I'd give it, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 laps, and then Domi come into the pits for softs to the end. I think that's his strategy here. And I think he's going to see it through, because he can't really do a lot else right now, and he can't pit for hards, because he should have done that about 10 laps ago, I think, if that was his plan. So the Ferrari just really stretching as much out of his tires as he possibly can.
This is starting to give me Ferrari in Spain this year in reality flashbacks right now. Is that Vettel in that Ferrari right now on these tires? Of course, he did it on softs. Looking at Alex Bitto, speaking of Ferraris, BTFU under major threat from the Spaniards. Speaking of Spain, it's going to be Alex Bitto around the outside of the McLaren in that scarlet red Ferrari. Is he going to be able to get it done? It's very tight right now. He's got the pace, and he does get it done on BTFU. That's Alex Bitto into P7, charging through this field. Yoda is up next.
Yeah, and Yoda is dropping off of Fraser again a little bit. And he's out of that DRS range, so that is going to allow Alex Bitto even more opportunities to catch up. Obviously, Alex Bitto on those fresh softs, like you were saying, is just going to be absolutely rapid right now. Maybe he's going to struggle. In fact, he will struggle towards the end of this race with their wear. But other than that, his pace right now is going to be absolutely lightning fast. And Yoda up ahead isn't going to be able to do a lot as Domi finally caves. He's into the pit lane. I imagine surely it has to be softs to the end here for the other Ferrari driver, and it is indeed. Where is he going to come out though? He's not going to come out ahead of BTFU, but is he going to beat Wisp here? I think he probably will.
Alex Widow into 6 as a result. BTFU ahead. Is he going to get Wisp? That's the big question. Wisp's coming down the pit straight now.
Yeah, Domi even using overtake before he's back on track.
Yeah, he's got him. With this significant enough gap. And who's that? I think that's Freeware again. Freeware is just having a very poor performance here in this one. He was having such a great first stint. As soon as he came in to switch tires, it just started to go downhill. He is now in 14th position. He is, I believe, he's got to be close to, he's a lap down without a doubt. He is. Shame. He was having such a great opening stint here in Russia.
Yeah, unfortunate to see it not going his way this evening. And, you know, there's not a lot he can do from a recovery drive point of view, I don't think. No, I think he's a little bit too far down for even maybe a top 10. So, really unfortunate for him, but he's sticking with it for the time being. But right now, it's the two Ferraris that have got these fresh softs on, and they're in fairly dangerous positions. Alex Bitto, he's got past Yoda already. Now he's looking at Fraser ahead of him, 7/10 as they come around the final corner, and obviously that means DRS is going to be well available for the Ferrari down towards turn 2 as Yoda comes into the pits here after 19 laps on those hard tyres. But it's Alex Bitto around the outside of Fraser, blocking off this off-track, which Fraser loves to use to defend and overtake. And that is the Ferrari now into P4 ahead of the Haas.
Yeah, very nicely done from Alex there. Really making sure he had his bases covered in the Ferrari. And now it's the other Ferrari of Domi who has just been tearing down this gap to BTFU ahead. 2.3 now, nearly 2.2 seconds is the gap, and we'll have to see how that plays in throughout the rest of this race. He's on the most fresh soft compound tires in a very good, well, no, Yoda. He came in, he went hard soft now. And he's in a pretty good position there in 9th as well.
Oh, and Freeware again, this time out of turn 5. But yeah, going back to Yoda, it's interesting to me that he's reacted here. You know, he's experienced Alex Bitto's pace, and he thought, I'd like some of that for myself, so fresh softs for the Racing Point. And I know it's a clear race, but it's getting rather cloudy here. So,
yeah,
it'll be interesting.
I can guarantee at this point in time it is going to be a dry race. The weatherman has one of those cloud machines.
Just teasing us.
And he just wanted to tease us, I think, here in this one. Maybe give the drivers a little bit of a wake-up call. Maybe get their heads thinking. I think we'll see it jump back into some nice sunshine and rainbows fair soon enough here, as it's been a fantastic race. Nothing to be disappointed about here in this one, except if you are Freeware in that AlphaTauri having a very, very tough drive here around Sochi, and he's coming to the pit lane once again here. which is going to, I think, cause him to get lapped once again.
Yeah, something that's just struck me. Somehow Fraser on 14 lap old mediums managed to fight his way past Alex Bitter, who has now retaken 4th place. But it's just he just came out of nowhere out of turn 2, got Alex Bitter just sort of between turns 2 and 3. So Fraser, despite being definite tyre disadvantage, is still fighting for this 4th place, and very late on the brakes, and he's messed that up big time. He's lucky this is reduced damage, because that would have been very problematic as he resets to track.
Oh, and he's going to lose out to both Domi and BTFU. With BTFU, he was just overtaken by that Ferrari, and now it's the Ferraris. Poof. Into 4-5. BTFU with a big slide out. He's on those 9-lap old mediums, soon to be 10. And we have another yellow flag, and it's just freeware, and he has had a terrible, terrible race here. He is out, and we have a VSC deployed. We'll have to see if anybody's going to benefit as a result of that, but it doesn't appear that there's going to be any full safety cars now. We've had 20 drivers that began this race. We are down to 13. And I know that there were a few retirements, drivers just saying, I can't make it the distance for this one, but we've had a fair amount of crashes as well.
Yeah, and, you know, some people retiring in the pits. I know Atom, he retired because his wrist is playing up. He's got a fractured wrist right now, and it was just after a little jolt in an incident with, I think, Max Inkster. He decided to call it a day. Doesn't want to aggravate that injury, so he can keep racing for us next week when we go to, I believe, Austria. And Fraser, coming out of the pits, also selling a 5-second penalty. He's got some fresh softs, and he's just behind Jake there for the final couple of point positions. So interesting to see how these two battle it out, as Fraser right up the inside, but I don't know if the VSC had quite ended when he did that. It doesn't look like it had, and he's had to give back the position, it appears. So jumping the gun a little bit there in the Haas.
And that's only going to cost him time as a result as well, because he gave that position back while Jake kind of just coasted through that turn. He's lost a second to the rear of that Red Bull now.
Yeah, very curious, but this race now, like you said, 7 drivers out, 13 remain, and a lot of these gaps are sort of increased in size. And I think our main attraction here is the 2 Ferrari drivers on fresh softs. Can they catch the leaders? They are catching. It's just a case of how fast the Swifty comes past Fraser. Down into turn 13. That puts the Williams up into the points.
Macau, 9.1 seconds is the gap between him and Brainster right now, and it's really going to be a battle between pace, and for this one, they're in the same tire life right now. We are on lap 36, just about to be lap 37, I believe. Yes. No, excuse me. No, Brainster isn't that far ahead. That's going to be Swifty that crosses the line ahead of Fraser. But, of course... Yeah, I am correct.
Brainster does appear to be losing a bit of time to Mikau here.
And Mikau's throwing a lot of pace.
Don't know what it is that Mikau's found, but he's found something. And Brainster's coming into the pit lane. He's on 100% ERS. So it doesn't appear that he's been pushing, which is very interesting.
Softs to the end?
100%, that surely is what he's doing, but why has he not used ERS on this in-lap? There goes Mikau into P1. His teammate Vettel going to follow suit. There he is. Yeah, it is just softs. That's nothing else. The Williams driver.
Crossing through that final turn now. Vettel's overtaken him. The 2 Alfa Romeos are in the lead of the Williams now. And Alex Bido is going to get the Mercedes. It's going to be tight. The Mercedes comes out ahead of him. Not a lot of battery at the disposal, but this is not good news for Brainstew, because he's going to have to fight off Alex Bido on cold tires for a moment. He's currently 9.6 away from Vettel. And I don't know if that pit stop was the right call. Yoda sets the fastest lap of the session at 132. 0.8.
Yeah, it depends. It depends why he was losing that pace to Mikau. If he was just not pushing, then interesting decision, not one I would expect from him. But if he was losing pace because of his tyres, then You know, better to do it sooner rather than later and gain that time now on these fresh tyres. 8.5 seconds of the gap, and that's one we're going to have to closely monitor here.
Fraser flying on some fresh soft rubber as well. Alex Biddle with DRS on the rear of Brainstew, but Brainstew has just been flying throughout this entire race. That gap to Vettel has been climbing down from 9, now just at 8.
Yeah, and at this rate, he's got enough laps to catch them. And his tyres are going to take him to the end. Maybe he wasn't confident that the mediums were going to last to the end of the race. A lot of variables could have influenced that decision. And now, absolutely flying on these fresh softs. His softs are the freshest on track. And, you know, it's just going to have to see what his lap times are going to do. Maybe trying to pick up fastest lap as well. Obviously, everyone here.
Fraser around the outside of Swifty. A little bit of a wheel tap. Swifty's gone round now, but he's far ahead of Jones, but he's lost out nearly 2 seconds. I think Fraser's actually slowed down in that car. I think he's going to give that back. Yeah, he is. Very good sportsmanship there from Fraser. A little bit of a cut through on the inside there. He's given the position back now, and that's cost him in the overall picture here, but they are fighting over this last points position, and the gap ahead of them is a very, very large mountain to climb. Nearly 17 seconds to Jake, and Jake 18 seconds to Yoda.
Yeah, I think Fraser, he knows, you know, I didn't catch the incident, but obviously he felt that it was bad enough to give the position back, and it's going to be more fun for him if he stays there with the battle. You can see them exchanging positions now. Fraser up the inside into P2, so just wanting to battle here, but Swifty defending on the inside into turn 3. It's the Williams holding P10, but around the outside, here comes Fraser. He's going to get the inside line into turn 4. Swifty just behind him, getting an excellent run out of the 4th turn, but I don't think it's going to be enough to hold it around the outside, late on the brakes into 5. And Fraser's still there on his inside. They're side by side coming through 6, down towards 7. It's still Fraser holding around the outside, now late on the brakes, as we saw Swifty do into turn 5. Still Fraser in P10 as Wish comes into the pits, and they're still side by side. DRS going to Swifty though, and I think that is going to be that, if anything's to talk about. But it's Fraser using a lot of ERS to try and stay there. A little bit of touching between the two cars, and they're still side by side. Are they going to stop Fraser trying it around the outside? But Swifty with an excellent exit. And Striff, they're still side by side here, going through 15 into 16. Fraser in front, but it's Swifty getting an exit that he needs. And
these guys are putting on a massive show right now in these cars. It's fantastic racing we're seeing. Of course, Fraser and Swifty, big tire difference right now. Fraser on those fresh softs, Swifty not so much. Swifty now around the outside with the DRS on the Haas. The Haas not going to have it here, and that Williams, you can just see now ahead of the Haas down into turn 2 in P10, and it's a fight between these two that we saw for that entire 38th lap. They're now on lap 39.
Now, speaking of Williams, whilst they continue to battle it out, Brainstew has carved his gap down to 1.8 seconds, so that's going to get pretty spicy up at the front pretty quickly. He's already got Vettel in his sights. No DRS yet, but it's not going to be long. He's probably going to have it out of turn 10.
Yeah, he's absolutely flying right now, and the big question is, if you're Mikau, you can see that gap on your MFD, on your time tower that you have as a driver in these races. And the big question is, what's the Australian going to do? Because if Brainstew's catching Vettel at this rate, it's only going to be a matter of time before he catches up with Mikau. Mikau soon to be 20 laps old on those mediums. Vettel's already crossed that threshold.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough call because it's going to chuck him down the order, but Brainstew made the call when he did, and it seems like he made the right call. The Williams strategy is really earning their money. Vettel with a little bit of a wobble out of turn 10, and it doesn't look like Brainstew was within a second in the DRS detection zone because he hasn't got DRS here, but he's definitely going to have it down the start, finish straight, or just after one. So, yeah, it's interesting. Are we going to see the Alphas come in here? It wouldn't surprise me at all, but at the same time, for Vettel, who is, in P2 right now, the tyres behind him, fairly old. Alex Bidow's 11 laps, so they're going to start to deteriorate in terms of pace.
Oh,
and
what an exit out of brain stew.
Yeah, but he's sort of... Did he lift?
I felt like he lifted there. I don't know what happened. Maybe he didn't know what Vettel was going to do. Maybe it was a lag spike. Maybe it was readjusting his foot. Maybe. I don't know. Well, it could have been DRS, but it didn't work out for either of them in that case. As brain stew just... He got it. I mean, Vettel, he's on 22 lap old mediums. I don't know what brain stew is doing, but it's an easy move for him into second position, and he's already going to start to pull a major gap here as Swifty and Fraser are continuing to battle. Swifty back out in front into 10th position in that Williams. A big lock up there. He goes offline. That's going to be Fraser through around the outside. Very easily done, but he's going to be taking a lot of curb on the exit. Swifty on the inside. He is going to try and switch back, and he's got a big slip out of that Williams. He gets it under control quite well. Fraser now ahead of him. What on earth has he done? He's going to be jumping into the pit lane here. And he let Swifty overtake him in the pit. What on earth? Very interesting driving coming out of those two in the Williams and Haas. But you know what? Yoda currently less than a second, excuse me, from BTFU. DRS and overtake in full swing now. We're on lap 41 here. So we're getting down now to the end of this race. A lot of drivers on soft compound tires. Brain stew 5 seconds away from Mikau, and we'll have to see what kind of pace Mikau is able to pull out on these mediums through into the end of this one, because it doesn't look like he's going to pit. If he was going to pit, I think we would have seen it far earlier. So I think he's definitely committed for a race win here on the mediums.
And Fraser's left the pits ahead of Swifty. I don't know whether Swifty had a wing change, but if he did, I think he would be further back than Fraser is. So I don't know what's happened down there, but the Haas pit crew definitely put in a shift to get that car out in front of the Williams of Swifty. As Yoda and BTFU, they've exchanged positions. Yoda up into 6th now, and the sun really is shining now in Sochi, whereas it was very cloudy just moments ago.
Strike fear into the drivers as soon as they see that darkness come over the circuit, and then it's all back hunky-dory here in Sochi.
There goes Swifty, just tapping the rear end of Fraser. He's going to get the DRS though. Has Fraser got it on the... He has. Fraser not deploying it though. He's braking down the straight. No idea what is going on.
They are just looking for camera time. They're having a blast back there, it would seem. Really exploring the Russian circuit, I'll say.
Vettel has been caught by Alex Bidow. So the Haas drivers, the Alfa Romeo drivers, really struggling because Brain Stew's catching Mikau as well. And I wonder what penalty situation is looking like here. Let's have a look to see in terms of what's going on. Obviously, the reduced corner cutting thing is obviously in effect. Neither of the top two have any penalties. Neither does Vettel. Alex Bidow is also clean, as he's side by side with the Alfa Romeo coming through turn 3. That's Jones out of the session in the pit lane, it would have seemed. But Vettel down now into P4. And it looks like none of these guys got penalties, so it's all going to be decided on track position if it continues as it is right now. And we just have 10 laps remaining in this Grand Prix.
Alex Bidow has started to pull a significant gap out of Vettel now as he's moved it into 3rd, and that's going to be the Williams of Swifty unlapping himself from Vettel right now, and he's going to get DRS as well ahead of him.
Yeah, and a lot of these battles are now fizzling out, and it's all these soft runners just hunting down the remaining drivers who are on mediums. You can see Wisp, Swifty, and Fraser. They're all on fresh softs down P9 through P11. And the only drivers, Max Inkster, BTFU, Vettel, and his teammate Mikau, who's currently in first place of this race, but Rainstrew catching him pretty quickly, but maybe not as quickly as he was catching Mikau's teammate when his tyres were even fresher right now. But Mikau's tyres 22 laps on those mediums. They're going to take him to the end, but how quickly can they do it?
Well, these softs that Brainstew's on, he's going to be able to make them to the end, but the question is, what is the pace going to be like in them, excuse me, near the end of this race? These mediums, we've seen them stretch for quite some time here. Mikau, a driver with some pretty good pace, but I don't know if the pace is going to be enough on those tires. They're going to really betray him here versus these softs. There's a lot of big what ifs happening right now in the fight for this race win. And the biggest one right now that needs to come down is this 2-second gap, and it's coming down rapidly.
Yeah, well, it's not so much a case of when is Mikau going to get overtaken by Brainstew, but it's a case of, is Mikau going to be able to try and re-overtake him if Brainstew's tyres go? But with the age of Mikau's tyres, I don't think it's going to be possible. Yeah, even with DRS and everything like that. So Mikau currently in first, a little bit more ERS.
Mikau needs to get that DRS on the back marker ahead, and it could be crucial for him to survive here. And if he's able to find himself a little bit of a train of back markers, that could help him. But there's still a ways to go here. Just shy of 10 laps remaining in this one. And, it's going to be tough, man. It's going to be really tough for that Alfa Romeo to stay ahead. Of course, Mikau, a driver who's definitely up to the challenge here. It's one thing to catch the driver, it's another thing to overtake, but DRS so strong in Sochi, especially through that sector 2.
Yeah, Mikau has got his work cut out if he wants to take that top spot of the podium. And right now, I think he's going to really struggle to do just that. You can see now, Brainstrew, he's crossed that ever so important 1 second gap. Now within DRS, limits. He's going to be allowed to utilize that coming out of turn 10. Just about. He needs it to be under a second there. There's the DRS detection zone, and I do believe he's got it. He does. I don't think he's going to get Mikau down into turn 13, but turn 2, I don't think Mikau's going to stand much of a chance to defend, I don't think.
This is what we've been watching unfold this entire race, is this gap breakdown for Brainstew to Mikau, and now it's within a second. It's a fight for the race win, the lead of this race. We're here on lap 45, soon to be 46 out of 53, and it's coming down to the wire right now, and Mikau has one job, and that's to stick with Brainstew as best he can, whether he is ahead of him or behind him. He's on these tires to the end now, and he can't do anything about it. Vettel in the same situation over at Alfa Romeo. It's a big gamble here, Brainstew, with that DRS. Look at the amount of time. It's 3/10 that he was able to gain on Mikau down into turn 2.
Yeah, 7 laps to go. Mikau in a whole heap of trouble with this fast-moving Williams behind him down into turn 4, and you can see how composed Brainstrew is able to be because of these tires. He doesn't need to, think too much about this move. He's, gonna have an advantage. And that's a Williams. I think that's Swifty. It is pointing the wrong way out of turn 4 and nearly costing Vettel.
Yeah, that was very tight there. Of course, my mind drifts back to a flashback that you can find on our YouTube channel where Vettel did a 180 spin here, and it was in Russia, where he did a 180 spin and fast movers were flying by, and we actually slowed it down in the Russian highlights from Tier 1 Season 2, if anyone feels like going and checking that out for Misfits Racing League action, but it was quite a sight to see. And Vettel almost getting cost big time there by the spin of Swifty. But speaking of overtakes and battles here, Brainstew in P2 in this Williams with a little bit of a weave behind Mikau, and I think that might have been a signal to say, hey, I'm coming to get you. 25 laps on these mediums versus the 9-lap-old softs. DRS in full swing. It's going to be the Williams with a move straight through ahead of Mikau into lead of this race down into turn 2.
Yeah, just sort of taunting him there. Just, you know, look at the pace I've got. I can afford to do this. My tyres very competent right now. Yours not so much. So Mikau's now lost that position. Can Alex Pillow close this gap by 1 second a lap? I don't think so, but it's not out of the question. Depending on whose tyres get worse faster, I guess. Alex Pillow 18 laps on these softs. He was one of the first, if not the first, to start coming in for the softs to the end, and he might start struggling for pace towards the end, but I don't think it's going to cost him to Vettel, who's 28 laps on those mediums. We have to wonder whether Domi can catch the Alfa Romeo ahead of him. 2.5 seconds the gap right now, and it's coming down as Domi takes a huge jump over these absolutely huge sausage curbs on the inside of some of these corners.
Yeah, they're a little bit deceiving.
Out of the second.
I feel like the drivers have done that a couple times. I saw Mikau do it in qualifying, I think. He took a massive chunk of a curb.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a topic discussion in when all the drivers were getting ready for this race. They were saying, you know, these curbs are ridiculous. You get absolutely launched off them, and we've seen it here this evening. We've seen, was it Alex Bitto earlier? He struggled with it, and I think Fraser as well might have had a collision with one, and it just sort of, it unsettles the car like nothing else in the kind of does, and it's cost Tommy here because Yoda is now right on his tail and has DRS, has ERS, and he's going to go up the inside of the Ferrari down towards turn 2. 5 laps to go, and we're still seeing overtakes, but Yoda has absolutely missed the braking point, but the Richie's corner cutting, not really going to bother him too much through turn 3. And he's just going to soldier on now in 5th place.
Yes, he is. And still keeping well with Brain Stew is Mikau. Mikau is in P2. He's just within a second of Brain Stew. He's got Alex Bitto on those softs. 19 laps now in P3. 7.3 seconds the gap. So at the very least, Mikau, I think, is secure into a podium position here on those mediums throughout the end of this race. But the question is, which one is it going to be? Because Alex Bitto is actually going to be able to, I think, decrease that gap a little bit, as those mediums are just quite old. Vettel in 4th. He's on 29 lap old mediums here in this race. Very long stint on those, but we've seen it done already.
Aaron, Yoda and Domi are catching him, but the problem is they're battling each other for 5th place, and if either of them wants 4th, then they're going to have to put their battle on hold until after they've got rid of the Alfa Romeo ahead of them, and they don't have a lot of time. They've got to decide, what do I want? Do I want to try and go for 4th and be a bit risky and just sort of chill, let the other guy have his race and I'll do mine, or do we battle it out for 5th? And I don't think Domi actually has much of a say in this matter, as Yoda seems to be tearing away from him out of the final corner. Domi, though, DRS bringing him back into the fight, but they are catching Vettel at a rapid pace, and we've only got a few laps left here around Russia. And Sochi Autodrome, and what a race it's been, but it's not over yet for a lot of these drivers.
Well, it definitely isn't over for Vettel. He's in P4. I think he may have thought he had secured it, but Yoda gonna have something to say about it. With Domi behind him on similar life tire, I think that Vettel might be in major jeopardy from these two behind him.
Yeah, and Domi knows what it's like to be on those old medium tires. We saw him do his entire first stint, and he gets a big slide out of turn 6. That's 8, sorry. And that's going to cost him time to the cars ahead. He's still got DRS just about making it into the detection zone, but that's going to leave Yoda to just go and hunt Vettel down by himself a little bit and into turn 13. He's not going to make the move here, but look how close now he is to the rear of this Alfa Romeo. P4 very much within his grasp now as the leaders cross onto lap 50 of 53.
Yeah, so much traction on these softs through these turns, and it's costing Vettel massively on these mediums. And ooh, very close to the rear of the Alpha was the Racing Point in Yoda there. He had to kind of get on the brakes a little bit earlier than he had anticipated, I think. Now DRS. He's ahead of Domi enough here to try and make an unimpeded move on Vettel. He looks to the inside, but it's still not enough to catch up with the Alfa Romeo. Vettel gonna hold on to P4 for now.
Yeah, it's gonna have to be an opportunistic move from Yoda, because he's got Domi behind him. He's gonna be hungry for this 4th place as well. They're not gonna be able to catch Alex Biddo before the end of this race. So these are, they're fighting for that 4th place because that's the best they can finish in as of right now with the current circumstances. And with DRS and ERS being so powerful a combination, they have to pick and choose their moments because they don't want to be the person who's left 1/10 ahead of the other as they come out of turn 10 in 3 laps time.
Yeah, most definitely. Yoda's so tight to the rear of Vettel now. He's got the DRS, he's got the overtake. Tight to the wall, along the inside. That's just a clean move from the Racing Point there. Vettel, not a lot he can do about it. Now it's going to be Domi's turn pretty soon. Except now the things are going to be a little bit different. Vettel might be able to maintain DRS on the rear of Yoda, which could prolong his position in P5, but Domi with a good exit right now. Is he going to snap to the inside? He looks for the inside with a lunge. He goes quite deep through. He gets the move done. I tried to switch back with good timing, but I moved on over to BTFU's end of the grid. Vettel now with the DRS on the rear of Domi, but Domi's already just so far out in front, and 32 laps now for Vettel on these mediums. He has a little bit of a brush with the wall coming down into turn 2. Fraser sets the fastest lap of this race, so 131 flat.
Yeah, he's going to pick up that extra point, and he is in the top 10, so he can claim it as well. And his battle with Swifty, as long as it was, has drawn to a close, so he's not in any threat of losing to him. The main battle here now is, can Domi retake 4th from Yoda? He's out of DRS at the moment. He's just sort of teetering on the edge, but there's the 3-second time penalty that could be the nail in his race's coffin.
I think a lot of these drivers could potentially be on the verge of some penalties. How are things looking up at the front of this grid?
Yeah, the top drivers right now, they're all squeaky clean as far as they were last time around that I had a look, and it looks like that hasn't really changed. A warning here or there, but top 3, all free of penalties. Yoda as well, he's free. That was actually Domi's 3rd warning, penalty, sorry. So he could drop massively because Vettel doesn't have any. BTFU doesn't have any.
Vettel has come in here on lap 52 to get some new rubber, so he could be going for a shot at that fastest lap. Very interesting.
I mean, yeah, it has to be fastest lap, because otherwise you wouldn't risk this, because it's going to put him into BTFU's, sort of sight. Obviously, there's still going to be a fair chunk of time between the two of them, and you can see the Haas of Fraser there coming into the pits as well. But look, BTFU now in 7th place. He's not too far behind Vettel. He's way closer than he was, and Fraser continuing his string of madness. He's got fastest lap and is now pit for wet compound tires.
Oh, so he's getting ready to do some donuts, is what that tells me. Ooh, very tight Swifty there. Coming out of that pit lane, he dropped into that pit exit line. Swifty in P8, Swifty in P10, Jake in P8, Wisp somewhere in the mix. The grid has been spaced out massively here. But of course, Brainstew is on the final lap of this race, leading in the Williams 3 seconds ahead of Mikau, who's in P2. And of course, you have Alex Biddo in P3 there with Yoda 9.8 seconds behind him, as they just crossed into the final lap.
Yeah, and Domi, he's still within. Yoda's DRS, he's got it now. Overtake pretty much absolutely depleted in the Ferrari, whereas Yoda's still got a little bit in reserve. So the opportunity is still here for Domi to get past and take fourth place at the end of this race. Obviously, it would only be on track. It's just a formality. He's got too many time penalties to make any meaningful change. But he's still going to try and distance himself as much as possible from Vettel, who... It's interesting, actually, because Vettel would have actually got more points, I think, if he'd stayed out on those medium compound tyres and just, inherited the position from Domi.
Yeah, Yoda's had a big shake-up, but Domi's just taking penalty after penalty here, and it appears that all the penalties those front runners didn't take, Domi found them somewhere on the circuit here. With Brain Stew now, with a superlative drive in that Williams, he made the best of his strategy. He is now coming down into the penultimate turn here around Sochi in the Williams. You love to see it. The Safina branding, the Lavazza branding as well. It's going to be the Italian with the race win. Mikau rounding through the final turn in the Alfa Romeo. He crosses second here in this one. 32 laps on the mediums to finish it on the one stop. And of course, Alex Bitto, the Spaniard, with a big slide out from him to cross the line into third. And now it's going to be Domi and Yoda still having an exchange at the last turn of this race at the line. They've come together. Yoda in fourth, Domi in fifth as a result of those penalties. And the big question is, how's Vettel going to land on all this? He has been, I do believe, hunting down the fastest lap here in this race. Is he going to get that point? He's currently in P6. He's in the Alpha. He's coming through the penultimate turn. Ooh, you can see Fraser's car there almost in the way, kind of shocking him. He jumps in with a 131. But it's not enough. It's a 131.7, and the fastest lap so far is a 131 flat coming out of Fraser in the Haas. And because he hasn't done that in the top 10, as we saw him earlier, he is not going to be awarded that point as Jake. Now, the last driver to cross into the points here, Swifty in P10, will be in the Williams. As I say, Jake was the last driver to cross into the points, but I am mistaken. That is going to be Swifty, with Fraser doing donuts right in front of him here, and these drivers just having a little bit of fun around the circuit at the end of a very long, enjoyable Russian Grand Prix here for Sochi.
Yeah, what a race. We're waiting for Max Ingster, who's the last person actually racing here. He's taking his time coming through Sector 3, it would seem. But his teammate, edging ever closer to the line, is now driving the wrong way doing donuts. He's just enjoying himself, it would seem, at the end of this Russian Grand Prix.
Well, I had called it as soon as he'd come out on the wets. I said, I think we're going to see Fraser try to perform some donuts here. And now he's going to try and have a superb finale. Perhaps the Haas boys having a little bit of a punterino there. And there you have it. And that's the end of this race. Max Ingster now the last driver to cross the line here. And if he could do so, that would be great as he gets across. Lovely.
He gets punted. I think the only reason he got across there was because the Williams came and shoved him across the line.
Yes, all the time in the world for the last driver, and he gets driver of the day to boot here after what a dynamic race. Of course, going to take a look at Brain Stew there with the race win from fourth in the Williams. Mikau in P2 from P6 with Alex Bitto in third. He started this race on pole position. Yoda from third to fourth, and Domi rounding out your top five here from 10th. Just a very good race overall. It was Fraser that captured that fastest lap. It was a 131 flat, and you can just see a multitude of penalties coming across here. And it was only 13 drivers in this race who managed to finish. 12, as Jones, and I was mistaken, did not finish. So 12 out of 20 that finished in this one, which I think, you know what, for Russia, these drivers just wanted to have a little bit of fun. Of course, today we had a big event earlier before this race. I think everyone maybe a little bit exhausted, just wanted to go for a cruise here around the Sochi Autodrome, but it was a lot of fun to commentate. Of course, Unicorn, what were your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think fun is just the word to sum that race up. It was just great. You know, we had some excellent battles from the start. It was just like 13 laps of just non-stop exchanging of positions, and then it all sort of filtered out for a little bit. We had pockets of drivers switching it up. We had, Alex Bitto, I think Freeware was up there at the front. They were all, exchanging positions, and then you had the the dawn of the soft tires coming back into the end of the race, and everyone pitting off at various times, and it was just, you know, great to see that pace similar to what we saw Maxime B do earlier this week. But obviously this time the soft tires, they go longer, so it had more of an impact really. So yeah, great race, just like you said, very fun. And that's, you know, what we like to see.
A lot of fun. And of course, normally we would have streamed this race. Unfortunately, due to some technical issues, we were not able to do so this time around. So you are seeing this race technically broadcasted for the first time on YouTube. Of course, if you enjoyed it, hit that like button, let us know in the comments, and subscribe for a ton more racing, because all of our normal league racing action, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, all the replays get uploaded here, as well as shortened highlights. But that is going to be it for us. My name is Stryfium. Joining me was Unicorn, and we hope you enjoyed, and we will see you next time.